first got married, like most young married couples, Danya and I went tent camping several times with friends. Now, I grew up as the youngest child of substantially older parents. So by the time I had come along, camping for them was the Holiday Inn with connecting rooms. Danya was a pretty sick child, and so camping was never something that her family could do. Well, the point is that neither one of us knew the first thing about camping. So most of our camping trips were disasters. We bought a canvas tent because we didn't know that canvas leaked in the rain. We bought cheap sleeping bags because that's all we could afford. We didn't know that cheap sleeping bags are not warm sleeping bags. We had no air mattresses. We had no camp stove. We had no lantern. After days of sitting in a dripping tent, freezing to death, with nothing but granola bars and beer to eat and drink, camping was simply not on our high list of favorites. But it did provide me with one thing, an analogy for this text today. What is the allure of tent camping? I watch our neighbors, and it's not even tent for them. They have a pop-up trailer. But they prepare for probably 2 weeks to take their little pop-up trailer out for 2 days. And they put more in that pop-up trailer than I have in both my garages. That's not simplicity, folks. You can go the simple way, but I don't think anybody really prefers waking up in a damp sleeping bag on hard ground, build a fire, spend 2 hours preparing burnt eggs, cold toast, and half-cooked potatoes, eat it and proclaim it delicious, even though we'd throw it away if we were at home, and then hike off into the bug and animal infested woods with a roll of toilet paper to dig a hole, and well, you know where that's going. By the end of a day like that, all I can do is sit in a camp chair with the smoke blowing in my face and try to swat at mosquitoes while scratching everywhere at once, and I guess it's at least an aerobic workout for a fat guy, right? I suspect that people like tent camping because they crave simplicity. And I can resonate to that. I love simplicity. The simpler I can keep it, the better I like it. And I think we idealize tent camping because it seems so simple. But then we add our own twist to it and make it a whole lot more complex than it should be. Hauling everything out of our home for 2 days, including sleeping bags and camp chairs and cook stoves and air mattresses, and stuffing it all in car top carriers, and then driving to a campground that has electric and cable and a swimming pool. Not more simple. I have a fantasy of getting rid of all of the unnecessary accoutrements of life. One day when my computer had crashed and my phone was broken and my car was in the shop, I told the bishop, I'm going to start handwriting all my sermons again, and I'm buying a horse. He giggled as he walked out the door and said to me over his shoulder, "Horses go lame." I think St. Paul was thinking along these same lines when he wrote this second letter to the Corinthians. This earthly life is really just an old leaky canvas tent. Or it should be. Until we try to dress it up as though it were a Gold Coast mansion. We worry about all of our possessions. We fret over our finances. We anguish over every little choice we make. And in the end, all that stuff amounts to a bunch of sticks gathered up for a campfire. Because all of our stuff, folks, all of our stuff is going to be burned up. If I remember that it's just an old leaky, cheap canvas tent, a sleeping bag that doesn't keep me warm anyway, well, it's a whole lot easier to let it go. To discover that these things we often treasure are trash, and the trash we sometimes so easily discard is the pearl of great worth. This should not be surprising to us, because our God is the God of strange outcomes. He takes dead trees and makes them live again. He makes great plants grow out of itty-bitty tiny seeds. In this life, we are just camping out until we are invited into the mansion where everything is handled for us and we live in eternal bliss. When Jesus Christ died on the cross, he bought our place in that mansion. He punched our ticket. We were dry, dead trees, worthy only to be stacked up and burned in the campfire. And he brought us back to life with the waters of baptism. We are that tiny seed that he is growing into a mighty plant. And the day will come, but we have to wait for it. As we sit in this damp, cold, leaky tent, it's okay to groan. We're given some joyful moments. Sometimes we look out of our tent and we see that magic moment where the doe walks across the meadow with her fawn. Sometimes we see the magnificence of a sunset or a thunderstorm. But most of the time, if we're honest, something somewhere is falling apart and we're getting dripped on. That's okay, because our true joy is not found in this tent, but in the mansion. Jesus Christ gave his life and his soul for our place in that mansion. Until then, we are just camping out, but camping out with God.